Yeah, thank you. I want to echo happy Thanksgiving week to everybody. It was a happy Sunday in our building yesterday. Good to have the bell back in its little spot in the O. Looking back at the game, I think the main storylines, it's what you'd expect from a Duke-Carolina game. It would be back and forth. Possession downs and our ability to convert, very similar to Clemson, to convert fourth downs and turn those into points was massive. And then really it just came down to the competitive excellence at the end of the game. You know, there was sort of a moment there. It was a one-point game. They had all the momentum. We had to go out there on defense, and I thought the second and third down sack kind of got momentum back in our favor. Offense able to drive down the field, but we still face a 4th and 7. Great throw by Mensah into Higgins on a slant, and then, of course, we still have the 4th down with the field goal. As I mentioned on Saturday night, we felt really good about that. It was executed to perfection. We get down there, score, the great 2-point play, and we still have to get a stop on defense. So really it was kind of neat to see all three phases in the last 7 or 8 minutes in the game really step up, even the kickoff coverage from the 50-yard line to get a tackle inside the 20-yard line. There's a lot of guys contributed, and, you know, almost, again, in the history of all the great basketball games in this series, in the final 6-7 minutes of the game, just felt like we made all the winning plays, and ultimately that was enough to get the bell back in Durham. Especially proud for our seniors, the guys who came here when that streak had kind of gone the other direction, and to be able to walk out of this program having won 2 games in a row against them is a really big deal for them, just like it was for the guys last year who finally got the first win and got it turned around. The senior class in general, this is their week, right? It's senior day. Wallace Wade, for a group that, you know, I told them last night, they've won in the last 4 years now. They've won 19 games in our league. And I think Clemson's on 23. I think there's 2 teams on 20 that both don't play this weekend. And when you say Duke has won 19 games, well, Duke is people, right? And those people that is Aaron Hall, that is Samir Higgins, that is Justin Pickett, and I can go on and on about these seniors and what they've been able to accomplish over 2 different coaching staffs in the last 4 years, and to win 19 games, have won 5 games in our league. We showed them a graphic of basically Duke since 1989 and how infrequent that's been here, and to do it 3 out of 4 years is a huge deal. We also showed them how infrequent to win 6 games in this league. It's only happened 1 time since the '89 ACC championship team, and they have a chance to do that this weekend. Now, to do that, they're going to have to beat an outstanding Wake Forest team. For whatever reason, the way the schedule shakes down, sometimes it just seems like you will follow a team often during the year. It seems like we followed Wake Forest all year, so we've had a chance to watch them on film, certainly in all 3 phases, really going back to when we played NC State. They just played State a week or 2 before, and impressive, really, really impressive. I mean, they're the way they play in all 3 phases, how hard they play, how tough and physical they play. They have an edge about them, and they are fully deserving of their record. If not, honestly, should probably have more wins just if a play here goes their way. I mean, they would certainly be up for, as a staff, worthy of Coach of the Year in this conference. So it's gonna take really our best effort to get a victory against these guys on Saturday. And we were able to kind of turn the page yesterday and start turning our attention to, like I said, finishing the year off strong. So let's do questions.
How many players will you have take part in the
The senior day deal?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, I don't even know the answer to that yet. So we started organizing that all last week, and 20-something maybe. I'm really not sure exactly.
We didn't see Trey last week or Andrew Anthony or Landon Callahan popped up on the injury report. Just any updates on those guys?
Trey, the game just came a little bit too soon for Trey. I feel the signs would be positive for him on Saturday. Can't say that for certain. Andrell and Landon, we have a staff meeting this afternoon. Try to get an update on those guys, but we are definitely hopeful. How what against Carolina?
To run the ball early and often, and
Yeah.
to stick with it.
Well, it was a big deal. It was a big part of the matchup against them. They obviously were outstanding on defense. One of the top teams in our league in terms of sacking the quarterback. So I think a big part of not having the quarterback sacked on Saturday was because of our ability to run the football. Now, when you run the ball and you're committed to running the football, you're going to end up in some third downs, right? And so that's where, you know, our ability to protect Darian, to have third down and manageables, and then sometimes it create fourth down and manageables where we could go for it, I thought was a telling part of the game. I think another underrated part of the game was really just field position. I mean, in the first drive of the game when we scored 7, our first drive, to run the kickoff back out to midfield, that helps create the fourth down decision to go for it. If we had the ball at the minus 25-yard line, we probably punt there and we come away empty. So it was a weird game, a game of very few possessions. We only had the ball 7 times on offense, and only punted the ball once. So I thought we managed the game really well, and we felt like running it would be important. And Nate and Anderson both did a great job.
You mentioned Blake playing with an edge. What other changes do you see with the coaching staff?
Well, schematic, right? Transfers. But I think it's great. You see some things that are similar to when I watched us a year ago, right? When you have a new staff and when you're at all preseason, the talk is always on who left, right? And that's why I said it reminds me a lot of our off season, my first off season here. This guy left the program, that guy left the program, and no one ever really talks about who stayed, right? There's some really good players who stayed, and then who they were able to attract. And they've got some transfers that are playing at a really high level. Some of the guys that stay are playing at a really high level. And, college ball right now is so much about who is playing with an edge. And then can you maintain that edge over 12 weeks? And that's where I think they've done such a great job of. They're playing with a great edge, and they've been able to maintain it. And they've had a consistency of performance because of it.
Coach, there's like 3 different scenarios, which all includes you guys getting a win Saturday, but help from a lot of other teams to still possibly make it to Charlotte. I know that the focus is going to be on your game, but how much of a motivating factor is that for you guys?
We didn't even address it. Didn't even talk about it. So many moons have to align and stars, and you know what I mean. Like, and the octopus has to choose like the Duke helmet. We didn't even bother with that, honestly. And it doesn't matter anyway. We have to play a team that has 8 wins, and so I just think that's where our focus is at. Anything after that is whatever. If they tell us to go somewhere next week, we'll go.
After going undefeated on the road in the ACC, how do you bring that momentum back home?
That's a big deal, right? Yeah. I mean, 6 straight wins in the league. We had been very proud of our home record. Again, these seniors over the last 3 years, but we do have 3 losses at home this year. So, you got to, that's why I talk about a consistency performance. And we have done enough to win the games on the road, and there have been, quite simply, we just haven't played as well at home. So be a different, unique environment. Obviously, Thanksgiving, like we went over there last year, it's always a little bit different. Not sure how many of the students will be around, but it's a teammate game. It's a senior game, and those are the guys you have to play for. And so, like I said, I think this game, the nature of these 2 teams, I don't really think motivation will have anything to do with it. It's going to really come down to who can sustain execution over the 4 quarters.
Can senior days be unpredictable?
I've been around some that have been. I think I might have told the story last year. I was at Mississippi State. It was Dak Prescott's senior day, and they announced him out, and I mean, like the whole stadium was crying. It was the Egg Bowl, and I'm like, this may not be good. I mean, the whole sideline was crying, and it was like 21-0 Ole Miss, like before we even knew it. You know what I mean? So yeah, you got to kind of, you got to feel the feels, and then you got to get back to playing, because there are some. You will see some guys, and I mean, even last year, there were some guys, the people, especially again our seniors and what they've been through. Like, going back to last year's senior day, some of those guys over 3 coaching staffs, and what they've experienced and what they've endured. There's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of feels, and so to put that away and to kind of refocus is no easy task.
Ashley was a little emotional the other day, just in talking about what the victory over Carolina meant to him and all he's been through. Just talk about what he's been through.
Who was? I'm sorry.
Jeremiah.
Oh man, what a year that guy's having. What a player. I know we have some award. What's the award that goes for Comeback Player of the Year? Piccolo Award. I mean, to me, he has to win it. I'm sure there's maybe some other good stories around the league, but very similar to the Panko story a year ago. When, a guy who had football taken away from him due to injury last year, worked really, really hard to come back, and he could go through spring ball, and it's you talk about Mensa and Shepard and Barcade and all these guys, but Jerry's a guy. I mean, he is a young sung hero on our offense, and the duty he does, the tough stuff that's not seen blocking, and then his threat as a receiving threat down the field, and some of the plays just in terms of timeliness he's made this year was kind of fun to sneak him out on the gadget play, but that's. He loves this place, you know what I mean, and just again a great guy to. I think came here as a linebacker, right, and is kicking butt as a tight end. So what a great story of what college football is still about.
Simply back to playing with Ned, you want your senior leaders to be the ones who make sure there's no hangover after the big rivalry win. But they're dealing, as Chip said, they're dealing with a lot this weekend, senior day, their families are coming in and all that. How do you as a staff make sure that your team's playing with an edge this Saturday?
Well, I think that's our job every week, right? And I think you talk about the seniors dealing with a lot. I mean, that's one of the hardest things now in college football is there's so much off the field stuff that our seniors are going through. And I think if anything, the one lesson that they've learned this year is that the only thing they can control is today, right? Because if you start worried about, what's happening next, because that's what happens, right? That's senior day does two things, right? You're nostalgic because you're looking back, but you also recognize what you're wondering what's next. And as we all know in life, like looking forward and looking backwards means you're not looking right now. And if you're not looking at Wake Forest, it's going to be a bad day. So, the best way to make your tomorrow better is to try to focus on today. And I know that's, like on a poster with a kitten hanging on it, but that doesn't make it any less true. So, they've had a front row seat. We've had some honest conversations, either one-on-one or as a group with our leaders, at some of the pressures that they really feel when they go through their last, year as a college athlete. And so, what I hope is they've learned from it and they just get to play free and fast on Saturday.
Everybody else, Chris? All right.
Thank you all.